Hi, fourth graders. We are ready for our math lesson today. We are on M5L14 for you to add into your table of contents, and we will be comparing fractions. Okay, so pause it if you need to and then come on back. Our objective today says I can use common units or number of units to compare two fractions. So when we have these two terms, common units and number of units, those are important to us to know how we are going to compare. If I look at common units, I'm talking about the denominator. And if we're looking at the number of units, we're looking for the numerator. So we're going to find two different ways to compare fractions today. But I want you to think about it for a moment. If I had 3 apples and 1 apple, you could easily tell me that 3 apples is greater than 1 apple. Just like if I had 1/4 and 3/4, you could easily tell me that 1/4 is less than 3/4. When my number of units are the same, so when our units or the denominator is the same, I can easily compare which is greater and less than. And that's going to be important for us today. So let's look at this example. Which is greater, 1/4 or 1/5? Well, this is a 4th and here I have 5ths. My denominators are not the same. So this time I'm going to have to look at the numerator. I have 2 tape diagrams here, so we're going to go ahead and shade and see by using our picture which one is going to be greater. Here you can see I have 1/4. And down here I have 1/5. So by looking at my tape diagram, I can tell that 1/4 is greater than 1/5. Remember, if I have 4 people over to share my brownies, I'm going to get a bigger piece than if I invited 5 people over to share the brownies. We have to make those pieces smaller. So let's look at another example. This time I want you to think about which is greater, 2/4 or 2/6. Again, I'm dealing with 4ths and 6ths, so my denominator is different. That means my pieces are different sizes. So let's use this tape diagram to look. I have 2/4 and here's 2/6. So again, I can see that that 2/4 section is greater than 2/6. So here's the important steps for us that I want us to come back to. When we compare fractions, we look first at the denominator. If they're the same, just like our apples over here, then I can see which one has more in the numerator. And I can look at this example to think about that. If my denominators are not the same, then I'm going to look at my numerators. Are they the same? Okay, so like here, 2/4, 2/6, my numerators are both 2. That means the greater the denominator, the smaller the size of the fraction. So here my 2/4, my 4th pieces are larger than my 6th pieces. And that means 2/4 is larger than 2/6. So let's flip to our next page and we'll see a couple more examples. Now we're going to compare, and I have 2/8 and 4/10. So again, my first job is to look at the denominator. Are my denominators the same? No, I have 8ths and I have 10ths. And so now I'm going to look at my numerators. I have 2 and 4. Well, those aren't the same either. But I know that 2 and 4 are related. I can easily take this 2 in my numerator and I can turn it into 4. And remember, I do that by finding an equivalent fraction. So if I'm going to turn 2/8 into something with the same numerator, I can take 2 times 2, and if I did it in the numerator, I have to do it in the denominator and take 8 times 2. So now let's rewrite our new fraction. So 2/8 is now 4/16. And now I can compare 4/16 with 4/10. And so I have some tape diagrams. Again, my denominators are not the same, but my numerators are, and so now I can compare. And so I have my 2 tape diagrams here, and this one is into 8ths, but I want to get them into 16ths because that's my new fraction. And so I'm going to divide them in half all the way through, and that will give me 16 pieces. And I know I need to shade 4 of them. Again, that's 2/8, just like I had before. And now on this tape diagram below, I have tenths, and I need to shade 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so this time I can see that my 2/8 or 4/16 is less than 4/10. And I compared by getting my numerators to be the same and looking at my tape diagram. All right, let's look at another example. This time I have 9/10 and 3/4. Well, my first step is to look at my denominators. Are they the same? Nope. And friends, I can't even get them to be the same. There's nothing I can multiply with 4 to equal 10. So that means I need to look at my numerators. Is there a way I can get 3 to become 9? If you said to multiply it by 3, you are correct. And so now I can rewrite my fractions and say 9/10 and 9/12. Well, fourth graders, I want us to think for a minute before we use that tape diagram, and we're going to think about these fraction pieces. If I had tenths, here's my 10th size. Okay, here's my 12th size. I know that the bigger my denominator, the smaller the piece. There's the same number. I have 9 of both, but I know that 10 pieces are bigger than 12th pieces. And so already before my picture, I am making in the inference that 9/10 is greater than 9/12. And I'm going to go ahead and check by looking at my picture, and I'm going to shade in 9 of these tenths. You can do your quick math scribbles to get up to 9/10. And I can shade 3/4, or I know that would be the same as 9/12. And look at that. 9/10 is indeed greater than 9/12. So remember, our first step was to look at the denominator, and then if I couldn't get my denominators to be the same, then I looked at my numerator. So let's look at this example. I have 7/10 and 3/5. Are my denominators the same? No, but they are related. I can turn my denominator of 5 into 10, just like I did before, by finding my common denominator. And so how am I going to get 5 into a 10? I'm going to multiply my numerator and my denominator by 2. And so now my new fraction is 6/10. So now I want to compare 7/10 and 6/10. Well, here's the best part, fourth graders. The tenths are exactly the same size, just like I'm dealing with 3 apples and 1 apple. So now I have 7/10 or 6/10, and I can say that 7/10 is greater than 6/10. So let's check out one more problem, friends. This time I have 3/4 and 11/12. So my first step, remember, is to look at the denominator. Are they the same? No. But are they related? Yes. I can turn 3/4 into a fraction that gives me some number of 12ths. How do I get 4 to become 12? If you said multiply by 3, you are correct. And now I have 9/12. So now let's rewrite it to say 9/12 is something than 11/12. Well, I know that 9/12 is less than 11/12, and I can compare my fractions that way. So quick recap. First, we check out our denominator. Are they the same or maybe even related? If they're related, I can get that common denominator, just like we did here. If I can't get my denominator the same, then I check out my numerator. You did a great job today, fourth grade.